Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Maych TV. So I've been thinking a lot this week about rivalries. So for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I've been working on a new documentary series for Redmen. And also because we've got a new partnership with Super 6. There's a brand new show there called Hold the L. Chris and I are going to be over there on a regular basis this week. It was Chris's turn and they were talking about the biggest rivalries in British football. And particularly with reference to Arsenal, a little bit of Spurs, Liverpool, Man United, Man City, that kind of stuff. Now, here's a little look at that, by the way.
Can I just say from an outside perspective, because obviously we're down south, I actually think that Arsenal have a bigger rivalry with Manchester United than Manchester City.
That's nonsense.
I'm sorry, but if you want to talk about Premier League and history, Arsenal and Manchester United dominated the Premier League for more than a decade. Ferguson versus Wenger, league titles, Battle of Old Trafford's, all these type of things. The rivalry between Arsenal and Manchester United, honest to God, I think is bigger because, you know, like it's already been said, Manchester City, they've come onto the scene now and everything else, but nobody looks at them as a rival. There's no real history of rivalry apart from postcodes in Manchester.
Yeah, DT makes the point, which I think is quite interesting. It sparked a wider sort of thing going on with the old synapses. Aren't Man City anyone's biggest rivals? And I thought, well, there's certainly something there with Liverpool. There absolutely is. But rivalries are funny old things in football, aren't they? And I think you ask any Liverpool fan, who are Liverpool's biggest rivals? And it's going to be Manchester United and Everton, and not necessarily in that order. For some people, it is unequivocally Everton as the biggest rival. Then it's the Manx. And for some people, it's the other way around. Whatever. The point is that those two are absolutely intractable. Liverpool's two biggest rivals in football. Now, number three, I think, is a generational thing. And I think it depends on what your Liverpool side was and maybe your age or when you were most into the footy and what have you. So, good example is when I was growing up, early days of being a Liverpool fan, when I was sort of 6, 7, 8, it was around the time that Liverpool lost the league in '89 to Arsenal. So I grew up always being like, ooh, Arsenal, we really dislike Arsenal. We've got a real antipathy towards them. In the noughties, obviously Manchester United, it becomes even more of a burning passion because they go from being also rans to being a real dominant force, and then they've got the quest to try and usurp Liverpool as having won the most top division titles in the country and what have you. And there's some other bits and pieces around there in terms of rivalry. In the early noughties, for Liverpool, there's a little bit of a one with Leeds United in that, which I think Liverpool will have had previously. I'm sure my dad would probably have Leeds up there. For me, the biggest one, the non-traditional rivalry with Liverpool is Chelsea. And that's because of that spell from 2002 to sort of 2007-ish, with particular focus on the Rafa Benitez, Jose Mourinho era, all the European battles. There was the League Cup final thrown in there, the tussle over Steven Gerrard, and also it goes back to them pipping us to the post to get into the Champions League, and then getting the Abramovich money, and then going from being like a sort of pretty much a level peg, and it was a straight football rivalry, to then being fueled and being able to buy any footballer under the sun, which led to a lot of like sort of anger and rivalry, and we had a real bitterness, I think, towards that, which is great. I mean, singing fuck off Chelsea FC, you ain't got no history, that's an amazing song. It's got a real venom behind it from that spell. And then more recently, look, you have got Manchester City. So, but can it ever go on to be as big a rivalry as Manchester United? And I want to get your thoughts on this, because it should be able to, right? Because it's got all the right ingredients. So it's got the fact that their fans are all from Manchester, and there was a massive rivalry between the two cities. And in fact, I grew up thinking that part of the main reason why we didn't like Man United was because I just couldn't get on with Manx. I used to find as a teenager, not a great time in my life. And it's a bit of a boring story, but stick with me. I was at Leeds Festival in like 2002, and I was stuck in a queue for the cash machine for like 8 hours. Yeah, I know, any normal person would have walked away, but no, I was determined. I was getting money out. Not important to the story. But when you're a young fella, most of your conversations with random other young fellas, you turn to football, you naturally do, and particularly when you're stuck in queues, you end up talking to people. And the one lad who was nearest to me started chatting, Man United fan from Manchester, and you just go, oh, because it's like oil and water. Liverpool and Man United fans trying to have conversations about football in the noughties and the 90s in particular. You just couldn't have it. It was like banging your head against the brick wall. It was impossible, absolutely impossible. And I always felt that was because Manx and Scousers just don't get on. But then I realised, like, I had a good friend at uni who was a Man City fan. Really good lad. You know, growing up I was a massive Oasis fan. You can probably just about make out the videos behind me. Him and Noel and the City shirt. City had like this, before hipsters were a thing, they were like a bit of a hipsters football. So really inoffensive, you know, quite a cool, always had cool kits. Light blue's a nice colour, isn't it? You know, and they had some really, you know, sound hipster choice, like Georgie King Clancy's of this world, where there was something about City that you could like, and also the fact that they hated United as, you know, as much as, if not more than us. Then there was a bit of a shared bond in all that kind of thing. So I never had a problem with Man City. I don't think anyone did. No, you know, it was made by DT on that video. That, you know, Stockport were a bigger rival of Cities in that time because of the time spent in the lower divisions. Oh, I must point out before I go any further, do go and check out that video, by the way, and I'll put a link in the description underneath. Go and support Chris. There's a game called Hold the L in that, where someone makes a point and they've got to be defended, and we basically come and see if Chris Pajak can come out on top, make him look boss in the comments, and obviously say Maych sent you as well, regardless. But yes, so the Man City thing, it's clearly not just a geographical thing. That, you know, it's not just Manx versus Scousers, because I've never really had a problem with Manchester City fans at all, and I never really had a problem with Man City, and even in up until recent years, I didn't have a great deal of problem with that. They had, when they got the money, you know, they weren't horrible with it like Chelsea seemed to be horrible with it, and they signed a load of players who I quite liked. You know, David Silva, really liked Sergio Aguero. Company, sound. You know, they had good, honest to goodness, really good footballs. It was nice to see them come into the league and also have them play for a side which, again, I had no depth of ill feeling towards, because it felt that you could kind of enjoy them. And, you know, they pit Man United to the league, which I think people remember more for it just being City winning the league in the Aguero moment necessarily than what it did to United at the time. I actually had to be reminded that it was United that they picked the title. But yeah, you wanted City to win it over them, because it was just a nice story, and again, they were a decent football side. It's definitely grown a little bit more bitter in recent years. You think back to the Champions League. And the coach greetings and the kickoffs around that, and the fact that there's still Man City fans who think that was like a Al-Qaeda style coordinated attack, where it was just a bunch of scallies who threw a couple of bottles of Copperberg and got a little bit overexcited. Not to defend those kind of actions, of course, but when you consider that there were probably about 10,000 people who lined the streets for that, and it was maybe one or two who let it down. You know, it kind of is what it is. But regardless, I think there's a lot more antipathy on the side of Manchester City. You know, you've got that thing where they're singing the song, their version of Ale, about Liverpool fans being battered in the streets and all that kind of stuff, which always felt a bit crass, a little bit tasteless. But I look at the rivalry with Manchester United, and it's so bitter and heated. But I get it when you look at like the biggest rivalries on the world stage. Like today, and it's harder to judge it because Liverpool have been so ravaged by injuries. But, you know, if Liverpool were at full strength and City were at full strength, and certainly for the last 2 or 3 seasons that have preceded this one, the best game of football in the country was Liverpool versus Man City versus Liverpool, because you had the 2 best teams, the 2 best managers, you know, and the 2 best brands of football sort of going head to head. That was the real eye-catching fixture on the Premier League schedule. But in terms of what's the biggest game in English football, it's Liverpool versus Man United, because of course it is, because you've got the 2 biggest football clubs, you've got the 2 most successful football clubs in English history. Liverpool the most successful, and Manchester United the second most successful. Just had to get that in. It's true. Major honours. Check it. So that one's the one. That is the El Clasico of England. It's Liverpool versus Manchester United. Now, will it ever be Liverpool Man City? Maybe. You know, it might well become that in years to come, but I don't know what the threshold is. Is it another decade? Is it another decade of Liverpool and City having these big games? Do Man City need to catch up, or is it just like, do people not take them seriously because they just don't have the wealth of honours? You know, we've seen plenty of other clubs, and look, you know, you've got Arsenal are a very storied historical club, but they've never won a European Cup. Everton are another big club. They won plenty of league titles, but they've won a Cup Winners' Cup, but they've never won a European Cup. Is it just because they're not on our coattails of either Manchester United, or is why there isn't really that true? You know what I mean? Why it doesn't transcend those sort of fixtures? I honestly don't kind of know. I think the point there's definitely something there that could add to it. I mean, in the classic Man United clash, you hated their players. You had something there that was really dislikable. Gary Neville and Giggs and Butt and all that kind of stuff. It's like, and they'd have had the same feelings about like the likes of Fowler and Redknapp and McManaman and what have you, and Owen, of course. Owen getting sent off at Old Trafford. Those kind of things. The Raheem Sterling thing certainly adds a little bit of that spice. Like, he's the one player who makes that fixture more than just the game, because of just the cauldron of noise that goes around the Sterling thing. So that might add to it, and maybe we'll look back on it in 10 years' time. That if you were coming through your prime years as a Liverpool fan in this period, then City will be that club to you, and you will look back on them with the same level of depth of anger and feeling that we do to other football clubs. But where they are right now, and this is the honest assessment, and it was a point made again in that video, and again, I can't recommend it highly enough, mainly because I'm going to be on there, so definitely make sure that you're watching it, so that when I'm on there, you can support and say yay. But the point is this, is that nobody has any real feelings about Manchester City. Same, I was going to say a bit like Tottenham, but obviously Tottenham have got the North London rivalry. City haven't really got anything. Yes, they've got the Manchester rivalry, of course they have. But beyond that, I think Man City or everyone else is like, no one has got a problem with them, so no one's that arsed. Like, it's good to see a little bit of a shift in the media narrative that it's a bit of a problem that Man City, the team with all of the money, far and away the most resources available to them, are walking the league once again. That's a damaging thing for football, and it's good to see that's being recognised. But the reason why no one really kicks off about it, because one of Man City are just a club that stops another club that you absolutely detest from winning the league. They are a banter buffer. That's all Manchester City are to fans of other football clubs. That's literally, they're a team, they've got some good players, play some good footy, they go into European games, they've got a good manager, they draw attention, and what do? They stop Manchester United and Liverpool and Chelsea from winning league titles, which means you don't get absolutely ruined by your mates who support those football teams. And that's the saddest indictment, really, of where Manchester City are. And I'm sure that will change in years to come, but I don't know how long that will take and what the threshold will be. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. But yeah, that's it, really, isn't it? Is that who would I rather see win the league, Man City or Man United? I'd rather City win the league than Man United. And Man United fans would rather City win the league than us. And that tells you the depth of the rivalry, or how little the depth of the rivalry is from anyone when it concerns Manchester City. But yeah, anyway, thoughts in the comments below. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And once again, go and check out Hold the L over on the Super 6 channel. I'll be there, I think 2 weeks from now I'm there. But go and give Chris Page of Sports, say Maych sent you, and drop a like and all that stuff on their channel as well. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Ta-ra.